March the 21st, 1931 was a windy, overcast morning in Sydney, Australia. But not enough to worry the two pilots of the VH-UMF Southern Cloud as they prepared for the daily flight to Melbourne. After all, the big Avro 618-10 was a British-built version of the incredibly robust Fokker trimotor that Charles Kingsford Smith and Charles Oom had used to cross the entire Pacific Ocean just 3 years before. Kingsford Smith and Oom hadn't rested on their laurels after their triumphant flight across half a world of water. The following year, 1929, they founded Australian National Airways and ordered the first 5 trimotors off Avro's production line. While they awaited delivery, the pair made the first crossing of the dangerous Tasman Sea in their faithful Fokker Southern Cross. By early 1930, the airline was operating successfully from Mascot Aerodrome in Sydney, with bases at Archerfield near Brisbane, Queensland, where the Trans-Pacific flight had landed, Essendon outside Melbourne, Victoria, and Launceston in Tasmania. In Sydney on March the 21st, another ANA Avro, Southern Sun, would depart Mascot for Brisbane at about the same time as Southern Cloud, while in Melbourne 2 more aircraft were preparing to depart, Southern Star flying down to Launceston in Tasmania, and Southern Moon flying a reciprocal service up to Sydney. However, the weather that greeted the pilots in Melbourne that morning was much wilder than in Sydney, with low scudding cloud, strong winds and driving rain showers. Both flights would be made in extremely marginal conditions. The crew of Southern Moon would face heavy icing and have to lay off up to 55% of drift just to hold their course in the ferocious westerlies. With the winds quartering from behind, they made the journey up to Sydney in a blistering 4 hours. Meanwhile, at Mascot, the cloudy conditions didn't seem to be anything the experienced crews couldn't handle. Southern Cloud's pilot in command was Captain Travis Shorty Shortbridge, ANA's chief pilot, who had over 4,000 hours and war service with the RAF to his credit. Having flown the Melbourne run many times before, he knew the route well. His assistant pilot, Charles Dunnell, was equally up to the task. Given the cloud cover, the pair would likely take a more westerly course to avoid high terrain along the direct track. They prepared for their flight and boarded the 6 passengers when they arrived at the airfield. 8 had booked originally, but 2 passengers had cancelled their flight at the last moment. Southern Cloud then taxied out and departed on time at 8:30 a.m. She circled overhead before setting off to the west. This would be the final contact with the Southern Cloud, which seemingly vanished into thin air. At first there was general disbelief that a large, sturdy 3-engined airliner could just disappear. By evening it had turned to distress. But there was still a chance the crew had put down somewhere along their route to take on fuel and wait out the weather. By the following morning, hope was fading fast. Reports of hearing the aircraft pass overhead came from all along its planned route, with some even speculating that the aircraft had overflown Melbourne and had come down in Port Phillip Bay or Bass Strait. Many experts, including experienced pilots, believed the plane must have crashed within 50 miles of its destination, in the rough terrain just north of Melbourne. Charles Kingsford Smith and Charles Oom led an extensive search, involving over 30 private and Royal Australian Air Force aircraft. But finally, after 18 long days, it was decided there was little chance of finding the Southern Cloud and no hope of finding survivors. ANA continued to suspend its operations and use its aircraft to keep searching for several more weeks, but still without success. In fact, the fate of the Southern Cloud could still be one of the greatest aviation mysteries ever, if blind chance hadn't played a part decades later. The Australian government built the nation's future on a massive Snowy Mountains hydroelectric scheme after World War II. Announced in 1949, the project would involve decades of damming, tunnelling and building in the rugged highland terrain. By October 1958, the work was well progressed, and gangs were driving tunnels to carry the Toomer River under a series of mountain ridges to Tumut. On Sunday the 26th, a young carpenter named Ton Sonta set out to photograph the spectacular Tuma River Gorge before its waters were diverted for the scheme. As he clambered up the steep slope almost 1,000 feet above the valley floor, he stumbled upon a strange tangle of rusting metal tubing. Thinking it was old mining equipment, Sonta was amazed to make out the clear outline of an aircraft's tail assembly. Incredibly, after 27.5 years, Southern Cloud had been found. Although badly damaged by the crash, 27 years of weather and numerous summer bushfires, what the wreckage told investigators was as tragic as its initial disappearance. The aircraft had crashed into the incredibly precipitous valley wall on a northeasterly heading, almost the reverse of its route to Melbourne. The airplane appeared to have slammed into the mountainside in a steep starboard bank, but the state of the motor crankcases with oil still in them and the condition of other items at the scene seems to point to there having been no post-impact fire. However, there are tantalizing hints that one or more passengers may have survived, no doubt with terrible injuries and trapped by both the impossible terrain and horrific weather. Firstly, residents of Tintaldra, which has views towards the crash site 30 kilometers away, reported seeing smoke and later the regular flashes of what appeared to be a signal light coming from the area on the evening of the crash. Also, the 1958 investigation found a bellows camera some 21 meters below the crash site. The impact would have flung it up the slope apparently, as if someone had possibly left it there while attempting to descend to the river and eventual rescue. Finally, recovered skeletal remains and personal effects could only definitely account for the 2 pilots and 3 of the 6 passengers. It's heartbreaking to think of any injured passengers struggling and failing to survive such a horrible ordeal. Perhaps the official report did the right thing by their relatives and the public to declare that they had all died quickly on impact. Well, my dear friends, what did you think of that format? It's a new one. This is just for bonus videos. If I get time, then I can make these videos a lot quicker than the full-length presentations. It's just something I've been wanting to try for quite a while. Maybe I can fit in an extra video in the month. So there's like 2 videos, one main one and this. If I get the time, I've had the time this because I've had some days off over Christmas. I thought I'd try this out. Let me know what you think in the comment section. With this, we get a continuous flow of narration, no image pauses. The images are in the video combined with the text, and also less effects on the pictures, on the images, less sort of special effects and moving objects and stuff like that. I can get these done a lot quicker. As a bonus thing, tell me what you think. I could also try next time, if you wish, to have the writing scroll from left to right underneath the screen so you get a bigger image, if you think that would be better. Maybe you don't like it at all. Tell me what you think. But I just thought I would try this as a bonus. As I say, as a bonus, the main historical features will stay the same, unless there was a huge percentage who wanted it to do it this way, but I doubt it, because I know there's a lot of people out there who have hearing impairment, and even those with their visual impairment. The big text certainly helps. People learning the language as well, they appreciate that. I get a lot of feedback about that very subject. But just, give me your feedback. This story was one that I've been meaning to do for some time. If you do remember, looking at the image now on the screen, I mentioned this at the end of the Weird Newspaper Snippets episode 2, about the plane going missing, and I said I was going to cover this. And you know what? I have been searching for weeks for the newspaper clippings that I talked about, and I racked my brains. What could have happened to them? And during the night, my subconscious started going through its files, and I figured out what happened. The last move we did, although I had the removal company move most of the big stuff, there was a lot of small, delicate stuff and precious stuff that I didn't want them to touch. I wanted to go through it myself. You know, for obvious reasons. You know out there who, if you're a collector, you're very wary about, you know, who touches what. And these newspaper clippings were very fragile. But there wasn't just that. There was so much stuff. And in the end, I was pressed for time. There was a deadline to get out of the place. And I was starting to panic in the end. There was so much stuff. If you knew me, there was so much stuff. And I now realize what I did. I picked out a few bits from the whole mass of papers, put them in a folder, and I dumped the rest. I had a purge. That wasn't the only stuff that I got rid of. I'm quite annoyed now. I never thought back then that I would be making these videos for Patreon, for YouTube. You know, it never occurred to me that I would be using them at all. I had read them until I found out by searching the net that nobody else has them. I've looked high and low. Nobody has these snippets, so you'll have to take my word for it when I say that they found the skeletal feet in the shoes still, and the watch and everything. The bodies were still in the chair. They had been sheared off. There's no record of that anymore, unless somebody in Australia goes to their library, if they've still got microfiche, and start looking through the year of 1931 to find all those accounts. But I'm very sorry. There's only one piece that I managed to save in that folder, and I think I was even keeping that just for the adverts on the page, and not for the Southern Cloud image. I'm going to show you right here now. Just as I say, it's annoying. You can't reverse it though. It happens. So this is what's left. This is what I kept from the whole mass of newspapers. I mean, Odette thought I was crazy anyway, bringing them to Switzerland with me. I did, but as I say, I had that purge, and I was only taking the stuff with me that I really counted as, you know, the top end stuff. So as you can see, these wonderful old newspapers, since I found them in the 1980s, they've become even more fragile. And I'm going to show you what I did, because the Southern Cloud image was actually ripped and had pieces missing from it. Yeah, so as you can see, it's just even breaking apart just from transport and you know, being moved in general. It's just so dried out, the paper. It possibly that was ripped when I removed it from the old house in Sydney, and that could be the case as well. But anyway, I'm going to show you what you can do to sort of save it and preserve it as best you can. Here we have the missing cloud, the missing Southern Cloud newspaper with the hole in it. So I'm going to try and preserve it the best way I can, and I'll show you how to do that now. Yeah, so you'll need to purchase some of this. It's invisible mending tape. You can probably get it from your local art shop, art supplies. It's acid-free mending tape. So it's sort of nearly transparent, and it hasn't got the awful acid in that normal sellotape has. You know, some people, they put sticky tape on the back of papers, and you look at it in about 10 years, it's all went yellow, and it has eaten into the paper because of all the acid that's in it. So this stuff is really good. You can repair the back of the image. It's like an invisible mend, as you'll see in the next shot. So here we have the back of the newspaper clipping. I have repaired it now with the mending tape. I've brought the edges of the tear as best together as possible, and here the next shot is the actual front of it now. So the tear has been repaired. It's just the hole where the paper is missing. So the next step is to scan it into your computer and repair the hole. You can do a sort of retouch. There's a Photoshop called Picasa 3. It's free of charge to download, and there it has a retouch, and you can repair the hole, and you can sort of highlight. I've left it a bit of a sepia color. You don't have to do that. You can just make it real black and white, and I like that sort of warm sepia color. I've left that. The hole has been repaired, and the clipping is now restored in a digital file. So it's, yeah, hopefully forever saved. And the original clipping I put in the folder again, and it, you know, kept it between now plastic to preserve it as best as I can. So I just wanted to share that with you. And before we go, I've rambled on a bit here, I wanted to show you this beautiful catalogue that I picked up. Picked this up, it must be about 10 years ago. It's so incredibly rare. I've never seen anything I've never seen another like it, because the catalogue inside has real photographs, you know. They didn't have printers and scanners back in those days. And this is a similar type of plane to what I featured in this episode. And this was the manufacturer, Fokker. They wanted to sell this aeroplane. So they sent these catalogues off to prospective buyers, companies who would be interested in purchasing these aeroplanes. And it's just amazing. Just wait till you see this. So here we have the interior of the aircraft that Fokker is trying to sell, this brand new aeroplane with wicker seats. I love that. I mean, they were brave souls, weren't they, back in those days, getting in that contraption. Quite scary indeed. And the next shot is it looks like a Victorian study, doesn't it? That's the interior of the aeroplane. That must be the sort of first class or something. I mean, imagine if you had air turbulence. You're going to be out the window. You're basically in a sardine tin with windows. I love it. And these are real photos, by the way. This is such a rare catalogue. I was so pleased to have found it. Absolutely amazing. And this one I really dearly love. These 1930s beauties displaying the interior of the Fokker airplane. Incredible. As I say, they had to be brave in those days to get up in that. We take it for granted, our beautiful aircrafts now with all the safety features, and even they go down. So you can imagine getting up in one of these things. Absolutely terrifying. I love this shot. This is my favourite of all, really. Anyway, I'm going to head off, my friends. I'm a bit under the weather today. Me and Odette have come down with cold. You may have noticed in my voice. I'm battling on. Got some great stuff coming. Got in a week or two the new presentation coming, full length. I think you'll like it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Discord live chat this Sunday as well. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget the teaser giveaway. Don't forget that. All you have to do is leave a comment. It's going to be a random draw. So a lot happening. And thank you for being with me on my ramble. Until next time, God bless. See you later, my friends. Bye-bye.